The Spring Showdown 2025 online tournament has recently concluded. Players from the Legends division of the event were contacted if they were interested in contributing to an aggregate community tier list. The tournament featured two divisions, these being the Legends and the Challenger division, with the Legends division consisting of the top 32 players at the time. In the end, the following players made and shared their personal tier lists, and were willing to have them be used for this aggregate list. Characters were assigned a value from 1 to 58, with 1 being the best character in that respective tier list and 58 being the worst. In addition, rankings were assigned a value of 1 from top to bottom, going from 1 to 5, 6, or 7, depending on that tier list's lowest tier. Rankings were added with their position for pointing purposes. In order to determine the groupings or who were together in the same tier, cluster analysis was used. 10 tiers was decided ahead of time for convenience. Once clusters or groupings were formed, fighters were then ranked left to right based on their points. The new main additions to the roster are the 6 fighters from the Witcher sets, these being Leshen, Ciri, Geralt, Eredin, Philippa, and Yennefer/Triss. Many of these characters were staples in the Spring Showdown tournament and have proven themselves to be powerful meta fighters. Also worth mentioning is that the tier lists were gathered before the changes to King Arthur. It's hard to say how big of an impact the change actually does, but it probably bumps him at least 1 or 2 spots. Battle of Legends Volume 3 and Deadpool were calculated differently, as only some tier lists have them. In their case, they were assigned a decimal value between the two characters between them, such as 13.5 if they were between 13 and 14. These fighters weren't included in the cluster analysis, but were just placed next to the fighter with the closest point to them. In any case, their inclusion here is mostly for fun and predictive. And without further ado, here's the new aggregate community tier list. This image, alongside the tier lists and spreadsheet, will all be available in the description, so you can play around with the data as well if you'd like. A few interesting observations. 19 players agreed that Sherlock Holmes is the best character in the game, while 17 agreed that Elektra was the second best character in the game. 19 also agreed that Doctor Strange was the third best character, while 16 players agreed that Medusa was the fourth best character. Many players consider Sherlock and Elektra to effectively be in a league of their own, and I agree. But Doctor Strange and Medusa scored high enough to be clustered alongside them in the S tier. 3 Witcher fighters occupy the A tiers, with Ciri and Eredin in A+, and Yennefer in A-. Even Leshen is on the verge of breaking through, being at the top of B+. As a whole, the Witcher fighters were arguably meta-defining, with Ciri and Eredin being 2 mainstays in the Spring Showdown tournament. With that, I would like to remind you that a tier list is probably not 100% accurate, if that's at all possible. People have different tier lists, with different reasonings and explanations and even number of tiers. Mashing them all together produces a rough guesstimate of what all of them think combined. What do you think about the tier list? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree with any of the placements? If you'd like a comprehensive, in-depth analysis of each fighter's strengths and weaknesses, I'd recommend you to watch Karma's Unmatched competitive tier list video that goes over 4 hours long. His tier list was one of the tier lists used for this aggregate tier list. If you'd like to watch some of the content I produce on this channel, check out this offline video featuring the newly upgraded King Arthur in a local tournament game. And finally, if you'd like to support this channel, check out my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description below. Like and subscribe, and see you next time.